This woman was left blind after her ex threw acid on her face, but then she forgave him and then married him. This is the story of Berfine Ozek. She was 18 years old when her ex-boyfriend threw acid on her face after she ended their relationship. Kasim Ozan had threatened Berfine multiple times before, but on January 2019, he waited until she left her house and he attacked her. She suffered severe burns, permanent disfigurement, as you can see in these photos, and she lost her vision in one eye. Kasim was arrested and was sentenced to 13 years and 6 months in prison, and Berfine initially testified against him, but things quickly changed. Absolutely no one expected this, but while Kasim was in prison, he wrote letters to Berfine. He apologized and expressed his love for her. And that's when eventually Berfine withdrew her complaint and stated that she still loved him and that she forgave him. Then in 2021, Kasim was released from prison early, and a year later, Berfine and Kasim got married. And of course, people were so upset and even concerned that this woman was being manipulated, and others just thought that she settled with this man because no one else would love her because of how she looked. Her own family also tried to stop her from marrying this evil man, but she insisted, and apparently they cut ties with her.
Shafilia Ahmed was murdered by her parents because she was becoming too westernized. Let's talk about it. Now, Shafilia actually was brought up in the UK but had Pakistani roots, and one day her family says, "We're taking you to Pakistan to get an arranged marriage with your cousin." She was terrified, and her dad drugged her with sleeping pills and put her on the flight anyways. When she woke up, she was so scared that she attempted to take her life by drinking bleach, and this would result in her spending the next 2 months in the hospital before returning to the UK. Her parents then plotted an honor killing where they shoved a plastic bag into her mouth to suffocate her in front of her siblings, and they told the siblings, "If you tell anyone about this, you will be killed next." Then they dumped her body into a river and reported to the police that she had ran away. 5 months later, the police discover the body and realize it's her. The parents play dumb, and it's not until her little sister goes and tells the police what the parents had done. They got sentenced to 25 years without parole.
I passed away trying to put a TV in my stomach.
My name is Poe. I am one of the Teletubbies. Before all the sunshine and happiness, there was darkness and loneliness. We were 4 children, stuck living in a Bulgarian mental facility they called La La Land, where psychotic children were secretly being experimented on. They isolated the 4 of us into our own dark rooms.
Lala, the yellow Teletubby, was a child with a facial disfigurement, making her face stuck in a smile. Dipsy, the green tabby, was a malnourished child that was constantly sick.
Tinky Winky, the purple tabby, was a deaf child who got tied to a fence and suffered frostbite. And me, Poe, I fell into a fire when I was young.
Our only source of comfort in our facility was the little television in our rooms.
But as part of an experiment, they told us they were going to take them away. We couldn't bear losing them, so we came up with the idea to try and hide them in our stomach. But they were too big to swallow, so we attempted to cut a pathway for them in our stomach and put the television inside,
which costed us our life.
One of the biggest mysteries in history has finally been solved. Alright, firstly, in 1915, explorer Ernest Shackleton and his crew set off for a voyage to explore Antarctica. However, before they could make it to Antarctica, the ship they were on, known as the Endurance, got trapped and crushed by the ice. Now, with no other options left, all of the members on board had to navigate a lifeboat hundreds of miles to safety. In this journey to safety, all of the crew survived many storms, even one being a hurricane, until they got onto a rescue boat. Even though they failed to get to Antarctica, this became a famous story because they didn't let a setback crush their spirit. But for over a century, the biggest mystery was, where did the ship end up? And believe it or not, but in 2022, the ship was actually discovered, and they were so close to where they wanted to be. It was found 2 miles underwater, and because of the frigid temperatures, it was actually pretty well preserved.
Terrible crimes that were solved by pure coincidence. On April 28, 1997, Zephany Nurse was born, and she was placed in a nearby crib while her mother Celeste slept, but when Celeste awoke, her daughter was missing. Police searched the hospital, but nothing of note was found. In fact, no progress was made in the case for nearly 2 decades. However, when Celeste's next oldest daughter Cassidy started classes at a new school in 2014, she met Michelle Solomon. The girls quickly struck up a close friendship, and many people commented on their resemblance to one another. So much so that when Cassidy introduced Michelle to her mom Celeste, she instantly contacted the police. When Michelle's alleged parents couldn't provide proof of her birth, a DNA test was conducted and it was confirmed that Michelle was actually Zephany Nurse, Celeste's missing daughter. The kidnapper LaVonna Solomon was later convicted in the abduction case and sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Trying to harm us because something will attach itself.
Those other dolls? Are you connected in any other way to other haunted dolls?
Everybody against you. Me and the devil. Walking side by side.
This is what they meant when they said, "Don't talk to strangers." In the early 1900s, a 10-year-old boy was playing in the woods when a tall man appeared and asked if he wanted to come back to his cabin for dinner. Totally caught off guard, the boy reluctantly agrees and begins walking. When they get to the cabin, the boy is relieved when he sees Paul, a family friend, sitting on the porch, so the boy happily goes inside. After they eat, the boy says thank you to the strange tall man, says bye to Paul, and then he leaves. He had only walked a few steps when he sees his family, along with Paul, running up the path towards him, frantically asking if he was okay. Confused, the boy says, "I'm just fine," and he looks at Paul and he's like, "Why didn't you tell them I was with you at the cabin?" And he points over his shoulder. Paul glances over the boy's shoulder and then narrows his eyes and says, "You were kidnapped by a cult 3 days ago. No one's seen you." Terrified, the boy turns around to look at the cabin he just came from, and it's gone. All he sees is a dark forest that stretches for miles.
Let's be financially responsible! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning!
Why? If you haven't got it just yet, try listening to this again and it should click.
The reason why! Hit the pause for part 2.
If I ever go missing, I hope these are the first people to come looking for me. The Midnight Order was formed by Dr. Sasha Reed, who's established one of the largest databases in the world on serial killers. She's
just now surfaced. Johnson was pulled over in July of 2021 for a routine traffic stop. It was during that time that authorities said they smelled the unmistakable odor of decomposition. In addition to that, the officer says that they saw maggots in a bag. Eventually, the suspect removed a blanket from a suitcase-like object and revealed her 7-year-old niece deceased. After that, authorities said they then found the remains of a second child in a bag. They were then identified as her 5- and 7-year-old niece and nephew. The suspect claimed that she was taking care of them for her mother because the mother could not. However, after further investigation, it turns out that the mother tried to pick up her children, but the suspect never returned with them. Authorities said that the 7-year-old niece had been deceased for over a year. The suspect said that they were staying at a motel in May of 2020. It was there that she struck the girl and made her fall and hit her head. She then stated she kept the 7-year-old in the car for months. She claims her 5-year-old nephew sustained an injury 2 months prior to the traffic stop and never woke up. She then put him in a bag next to his sister. On February 10th of this year, she was sentenced to 50 years in prison. To stay up to date on this case, make sure you click the playlist below. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
The body cam footage of this woman's arrest has gone viral right now, and if you haven't seen it, just stay tuned. Nicole Johnson was sentenced to 50 years in prison for the unaliving of her nephew and her niece. According to reports, she gained custody of the kids in 2019 due to her sister not being able to take care of them at the time. Now the children, Jocelyn and Larry, moved from Dayton, Ohio, all the way to Maryland. Her sister assumed that her kids were in good hands, and she later tried to connect with her kids, but her sister would never let her. Each time she would make an excuse saying the kids are asleep, and then at some point she just stopped answering the phone. However, in 2021, she was stopped for a traffic violation for driving over the speed limit. The cop then ran her plates and said that her plates were not found and that she needed to sit down, take her stuff out the car, and wait for the tow truck. It was at that point the police officers noticed a foul stench and made her open all of her suitcases and luggages. It was there that they saw a little girl who was unalived and decomposing. According to Nicole, she beat her until she was unalived, and she passed away in 2020. Now, the little boy Larry, he passed away months before the traffic stop, so she just said that he fell asleep and never woke up. Although the coroner found a big gash on his leg, she would not give any more information. How could an aunt be so cruel and drive around with these little babies' bodies and not even seek help? The police officer who did find the kids' bodies was crying and trying to gain composure, but he couldn't. Many of them were praying at the scene, but what do you all think about the story? Let me know in the comment section below.
This killer accidentally admitted to his crimes by accident when he forgot he was wearing a microphone while taking part in a documentary. This is how a true crime documentary exposed a killer. In 1971, Robert Durst met Kathleen McCormack and they got married. At the time of her disappearance in 1982, Kathleen had nearly graduated college. She was last seen by a witness at a dinner party where she appeared to be upset. She got a call from Robert and left. Robert admitted to having argued with Kathleen that night, but he said he put her on a train to New York and then never saw her again. Her friend called police to report her missing. Interestingly, Kathleen had been treated at a medical centre for facial bruises weeks prior to this and told the friend that Robert had done it. Robert had actually been dating someone else for some time prior to this and had been living separately to Kathleen. When her family broke into her cottage to try and find out where she was, they found the place had been trashed and her possessions put in the bin. Kathleen's family always believed that Robert was involved in her disappearance. In 2000, Susan Berman, a friend of Robert's, was found murdered. Now, she'd actually provided Robert with an alibi for Kathleen's disappearance. Now, pay really close attention to this next bit. Days after she was killed, a letter addressed to the Beverly Hills Police Department contained Susan's address and the word cadaver on it. On the envelope, Beverly was misspelled. Robert admitted in 2005 that Susan had called him shortly before her death to say that the police wanted to question her about Kathleen going missing. It's believed that Robert killed Susan to keep her quiet. In 2001, Robert's neighbour's body parts were found floating in Galveston Bay. Robert's elderly neighbour, Morris Black, had been killed and Robert was arrested. He was actually released on bail and fled and was found about a month later in Pennsylvania. He was found with $37,000 cash, 2 weapons, and interestingly, Morris Black's driving license. In court, Robert claimed he was acting in self-defense. He said he'd accidentally shot Morris and dismembered his body. Due to lack of forensics, he only got 5 years in jail. This is where things get really crazy. HBO was filming a documentary called The Jinx. During production, Susan's stepson found a letter written by Robert. This contained the same spelling error in the word Beverly as the anonymous letter to police. This implicated Robert in the murder. Now, while filming the documentary, Robert needed the toilet. He forgot that he had a microphone still attached to him. He was recorded talking to himself. He said, "There it is, you're caught. You're right, of course, but you can't imagine. Arrest him." And then he said, "What a disaster. He was right. I was wrong." And finally he said, "I'm having difficulty with the question. What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course." This reality TV star is charged with murdering, dismembering, and setting her ex on fire. And police want your help because his head is still missing. Tamika Chesler is a 34-year-old reality TV star who shot to fame over a decade ago on the Australian version of Beauty and the Geek. It's essentially a reality TV show where they kind of pair up very beautiful women with very intelligent guys and they make them do challenges. She then went on to do a lot of like glamour modeling work. In the show, she honestly seemed like a normal, nice, sweet girl, but what she's accused of is absolutely horrific. She had been living with her partner Julian Story in Port Lincoln. He was 39 years old and neighbours described him as kind to everyone. This all came to light on the 19th of June, just after 3 p.m, when a small fire could be seen coming from her home. Curious, a neighbour popped round to investigate and found honestly the most horrifying scene you could ever imagine. Julian's badly burned, disfigured remains were in full view, lay in the apartment. He was missing his head. Tamika was also found just outside of the property in the garden in a, quote, catatonic, unresponsive state. This poor neighbour immediately called police, obviously, and Tamika was arrested. They then obviously had to piece together exactly what had happened here. They scoured CCTV from the local area and found haunting images of Tamika wearing a black cloak, walking around with her dogs between the 17th and the 19th of June. She could be seen carrying a plastic bag, but it wasn't clear exactly what was in that bag. Police allege that she killed Julian at their home and then decapitated him and set him on fire. Although searches have taken place, like I said, the police are still looking for his head, which is yet to be found. Tamika is charged with murder, destruction or disposal of human remains to obstruct justice, and assaulting a police or emergency worker, so I'm assuming she kicked off when she was arrested. She is currently being held in a psychiatric facility.
He was found stuck inside of a chimney after missing for 7 years. 18-year-old Joshua Maddox lived in Woodland Park, Colorado, and had a love for nature. He had a free spirit, carefree attitude, and it was pretty normal for him to just get out and go for a walk. On May 8th of 2008, Joshua told his sister Kate that he was going to go outside for a walk. She didn't think much of it because this is something that he would always do, but later that day, his family noticed that he never came back home. They started to worry because this was out of the ordinary for Joshua. His parents waited several days before contacting the police, and on May 15th, his father is the one who called and reported him as missing. The search for Joshua went on for months, including authorities, family members, and friends searching around the area. But as time went on, people started losing hope of finding Joshua. Joshua's sister Kate hoped that her brother just left town, started a new life, and that nothing had happened to him. At this time, many were speculating that maybe he ran away due to not being able to deal with his brother's death just 2 years prior. His family didn't want to believe that Joshua was a runaway, so they listed him as missing. 7 years later, in 2015, a man named Chuck Murphy was demolishing his old wood cabin so he could make room for a property development. The cabin had not been used for years, it smelled rotten, and while they were trying to demolish it, inside of the chimney they found a mummified body. Yes, this body belonged to Joshua Maddox. He was found cramped into a fetal position with his legs above his head. And the sad part is, he was only 1 mile away from his home. A coroner believed that Joshua was climbing down the chimney to get inside of that cabin when he got stuck. His death was ruled as an accidental death, but Chuck, the owner of the cabin, said that this was impossible. He had installed a heavy wire gate across the chimney so that raccoons and other stuff wouldn't be able to get inside. The case was opened up again and they were trying to figure out if foul play was involved. A major clue that wasn't discussed as much is that Joshua was found only wearing a thermal t-shirt. Inside of the cabin lay the rest of his clothes, including his shoes and socks, so it didn't make sense that he was climbing down the chimney if he was already inside the cabin. Joshua's death was once again disclosed as an accident, but Chuck was convinced it was no accident. There was also a main suspect who saw Joshua the last time he was alive, but since 7 years passed by, it was hard to get information from him. To this day, Joshua's death remains unsolved.
This woman was left blind after her ex threw acid on her face, but then she forgave him and then married him. This is the story of Berfine Ozek. She was 18 years old when her ex-boyfriend threw acid on her face after she ended their relationship. Kasim Ozan had threatened Berfine multiple times before, but on January 2019, he waited until she left her house and he attacked her. She suffered severe burns, permanent disfigurement, as you can see in these photos, and she lost her vision in one eye. Kasim was arrested and was sentenced to 13 years and 6 months in prison, and Berfine initially testified against him, but things quickly changed. Absolutely no one expected this, but while Kasim was in prison, he wrote letters to Berfine. He apologized and expressed his love for her, and that's when eventually Berfine withdrew her complaint and stated that she still loved him and that she forgave him. Then in 2021, Kasim was released from prison early, and a year later, Berfine and Kasim got married. And of course, people were so upset and even concerned that this woman was being manipulated, and others just thought that she settled with this man because no one else would love her because of how she looked. Her own family also tried to stop her from marrying this evil man, but she insisted, and apparently they cut ties with her.